If you've lived in the same house for 20 years and there's a busy road within half a mile, your brain has been quietly accumulating something that shouldn't be there. And most doctors have no idea it's happening. 28 million older Americans just got studied. That's basically everyone on Medicare. And what researchers at Emory found about traffic-related air pollution? It changes how we need to think about cognitive decline. Here's what caught me off guard. The damage isn't locked in yet. Even if you've been breathing this stuff for decades, there's a specific window where reducing exposure still matters, and it has to do with where you sleep. But first, you need to understand what's actually getting through. PM 2.5 particles. That's particulate matter smaller than 2.5 micrometers. We're talking 30 times smaller than a human hair. So small, they slip past your lungs, enter your bloodstream, and cross directly into brain tissue. Think of it this way. If a human hair were as wide as a football field, these particles would be smaller than a yard line. Your body's filters can't catch something that tiny. So where do they come from? Car exhaust, power plants, wildfires, even cooking on your gas stove. That smell when trucks idle at a stoplight? PM 2.5. The haze from distant wildfires that turns sunsets orange? PM 2.5. That film on your windows if you live near a highway? You're looking at brain-penetrating particles. Here's the thing. Once these particles cross the blood-brain barrier, they don't just visit. They stay. And they're directly linked to both mild cognitive impairment and full-blown dementia. University of Pennsylvania researchers examined brain tissue from people who died with Alzheimer's. Those who lived in areas with higher PM 2.5, even just 1 year before death, had way worse accumulation of amyloid plaques and tau tangles, the two calling cards of Alzheimer's disease. Think about that. 1 year left visible damage. For every increase of just 1 microgram per cubic meter of PM 2.5 in the air, the risk for worse Alzheimer's markers jumped 19%. But wait, this next part about cerebrovascular disease? Nobody's talking about it. For years, doctors figured air pollution hurt the brain indirectly. You know, pollution damages your heart, raises blood pressure, causes cerebrovascular disease and strokes, and those problems lead to dementia. Made sense. Except that's not what the 28 million person study found. Emory's researchers discovered the connection comes mostly from pollution's direct effects on brain tissue. Not through hypertension, not through depression, straight to cognitive decline. Let me put that in perspective. Check your air quality index, the AQI. Living in a clean rural area versus a typical suburban neighborhood near traffic-related air pollution, that's often a difference of 5 to 10 micrograms. Do the math. Your risk could double or triple based on your zip code alone. And before you think, well, I don't live in a smoggy city, research suggests the damage is happening at levels many consider acceptable. Studies have found increased dementia risk even in areas that meet current air quality standards, kind of like secondhand smoke in the 1970s. The safe levels weren't actually safe. We just didn't know yet. Which brings us to something unsettling about where this concentrates. Ever wonder why some rooms in your house feel stuffier at night? Your bedroom, where you spend 7 to 9 hours every single night, might be the worst room in your house for PM 2.5 exposure. Here's why. Air pollution can accumulate indoors, especially in bedrooms with poor ventilation. And because most of us sleep with windows cracked for fresh air, or we have older window seals, those particles drift straight into our bedrooms while we sleep. So you're lying there, 8 hours, breathing deeply, in a room that may have higher particle concentrations than you'd expect. The same particles linked to mild cognitive impairment. I measured the PM 2.5 in my own bedroom. Middle of the night, windows closed, suburban neighborhood. The levels? Higher than I expected. Much higher. Now here's where it gets personal. My neighbor Linda, sharp as anything at 72, started noticing she'd forget words mid-sentence. Just occasionally. Her doctor ran the usual tests, said it was normal aging, but Linda lives 400 feet from Route 95. She's been breathing highway exhaust every night for 31 years. Now I promised you there's a window where intervention still matters, even with mild cognitive impairment. Let me explain. The Alzheimer's Association presented data showing something remarkable. For those living in locations with greater reduction in PM 2.5 and nitrogen dioxide, specifically per 10% of the EPA's current standard, dementia risk fell by 14 and 26%. Let that sink in. Even small improvements in air quality made a measurable difference in cognitive decline. Look, I'll be straight with you. Moving isn't realistic for most of us, but there's something simpler. This is why doctors now quietly recommend a HEPA filter for the bedroom. Research suggests that air purifiers with HEPA filters can reduce indoor PM 2.5 levels. It's not a cure, obviously, but when your air quality index is poor, it's one thing you can control tonight. Here's what makes this urgent for anyone over 60. Brain changes from dementia start decades before symptoms appear. The proteins are already accumulating. But, and this is crucial, research shows your brain tissue still responds to changes in air quality, even late in life, even after mild cognitive impairment begins. The key? Consistency. Every night of cleaner air matters. Mayo Clinic's Dr. Ronald Peterson, who directs their Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, acknowledges air pollution among the modifiable risk factors for dementia that experts have identified. Not genetics, not age. Modifiable. So here's what I couldn't believe when I first read it. Remember I mentioned where you sleep? Well, your brain's immune cells, the microglia, activate in response to these particles. Chronic activation? That leads to oxidative stress, white matter lesions, cerebrovascular disease, and faster damage to your hippocampus. The bedroom isn't just where you might be exposed. It's where your brain spends hours every night. And if you have a history of stroke or other cerebrovascular disease, research shows your vulnerability compounds. The particles exploit existing weak points in the blood-brain barrier. Like having a cracked windshield, damage spreads faster from those weak points. But here's what gives me hope. Even after decades of exposure, your next 3 years still matter. The tissue samples proved it. Recent air quality affected brain pathology more than lifetime exposure. Your brain hasn't given up responding, neither should you. How far do you live from the nearest highway? Check your daily air quality index? That's not rhetorical. I'm genuinely asking you to think about it. Drop a comment below, because awareness, that's where change starts. Before we finish, everything I've shared today is for educational purposes only. It's not medical advice, and it's definitely not a substitute for talking with your own doctor. Your health situation is unique. Your doctor knows your medications, your medical history, your specific risks. Use this information as a starting point for that conversation, not a replacement for it. Over 55 million people worldwide currently have dementia. That number is expected to triple by 2050. But the 2024 Lancet Commission says we could prevent or delay 45% of cases by addressing modifiable risks. Traffic-related air pollution and PM 2.5 are among them. Your brain is still listening to the air you breathe. The question is, what are you going to do about it?